Hello, everybody. Thank you for coming. We're delighted to see the room filling up. Nice to see you. I'd like to welcome you to this usheru webinar about turning audience into revenue. Um, this is on the topic of smart marketing for live events. My name is Catherine Downs, and I am the Chief Operating Officer and co-founder of usheru. Along with my business partner, Ollie is here. Ollie Fegan, he is the CEO and co-founder of the company. We're very happy to have you here today. This will be about a 30-minute session. We're talking through this topic. We'd also like to say to you, please feel free to ask questions along the way. Anything tough you come up with, and we'll get Ollie to answer those questions. Who are us for you? So, just to give you some background on who we are, we're a global company. We are supporting under over 140 entertainment businesses on six continents, and we're operating since 2015. We are
10 years
working
old, Catherine. 10 years old.
10 years old, exactly. We are a data-led technology marketing company, and we build platforms for um, arenas and sports teams in the live entertainment industry. And we've also been working for the past 10 years in the movie industry, building essentially direct consumer, data-led innovative solutions to help people get their content out into the world and to bring audiences and fans into their realm to make their marketing more effective, and to reduce their cost to operate and drive real revenue growth in the business. So, since you're all probably very interested to understand how you can do that for your business, we're going to jump now into the topic of how we think and what we've seen over these 10 years really makes a difference in achieving those goals.
Thanks, Catherine. Yeah, look, as Catherine says, marketing is challenging, and reaching audiences is definitely more complex than it previously was. There's a lot of challenges coming at us in terms of privacy movements, GDPR, CCPA. There's a term which Catherine and I have been fighting over called the cookie apocalypse. Essentially, third-party cookie tracking is being deprecated, especially on Safari and Firefox. Google have decided not to fully deprecate it because they would lose an awful lot of, I suppose, their
Data.
USP and
Yeah.
data. But generally speaking, what this means, and I'll explain in a second, is an awful lot of traffic from a digital perspective is not being tracked. And on the consumer side, we're oversaturated. We're basically seeing, far too many ads. We've got Trump does something crazy, Israel war, there's sport going on, NBA season kicking off. And with all of this, it's very hard for people to stay focused on what they're doing. And also consumers are basically dissipating across lots of channels. And I suppose all of this means that reaching consumers is very challenging. And as Catherine says, we started our journey in the film industry and we saw a lot of the issues in the film industry are very similar to the live entertainment space in that a consumer, finds information about an event in one place and a promoter does the promoting like a distributor does in film. And then you're expected to go to a venue's website and ultimately get to Ticketmaster to make your purchase. And because a lot of this sort of steps in the journey are not necessarily fully connected, the e-commerce flow is not optimal. And so I'll just touch on this very quickly just to understand and set, I suppose, a little bit of context for what we see as best practice. Like a lot of the communication that is happening in the live entertainment space is all about this upper funnel, like awareness and acquisition. Because someone makes their purchase on Ticketmaster or similar services, you don't necessarily own the consumer, and then data is siloed in lots of different places. So what we see now is a real opportunity, which we'll go on to in a second, is to sort of bring all this data together to track who your consumers or your audience and fans are, and ultimately to retarget people and make sure they go through to the moment of purchase. But the really exciting parts I think that can be used with data is very much to go for this loyalty retention get people to come back for event after event. And when we talk about data, it's not just ticketing data, it's parking data, it's contests,
Feedback surveys.
yeah,
Yeah.
there's people entering the building, when they entered, when they leave, the food and beverage. So generally, like our viewpoint is bring all this together, try to make some consensus about who those cohorts are and sell them more. That's kind of it at a high level. And so just from a foundational perspective, the one thing I just wanted to start off with is probably around the limitations of Google Analytics. On a really high level, when someone doesn't accept cookie tracking on their website, if you give them the option to do it, and in the US, it's a little bit more lax than it would be in Europe, where in Europe you have to get someone to opt in, where in the US you can have some setup. So for some of the European people coming today, you're probably seeing around 80% of the traffic that comes to your website is not tracked. And this basically impacts your ability to retarget people. And this is sort of data that we have here. So what we see is where there's a full opt-in process, 72% of people do nothing, which means they're not accepting it or rejecting it. 15% of people accept all cookies as you sort of set out as your basic cookie tracking, and 10% reject. And so you're seeing roughly this 82% not fully tracked. So we're always trying to help partners. We've launched a new tracking system, which allows us to track all the traffic and not just the Google Analytics traffic. And this is allowing people to see a little bit more about who's coming and then allow them to track obviously more data about what they're doing. But it's just important to say where we track all traffic, it's not all where they've accepted cookies. So it's not necessarily people that you can, retarget as well as you want.
Yeah.
But you still have it tracked in Google Analytics. You can retarget all those people anyway.
Yeah, I'm gonna just add to that and just to really tell people what this means for them. This means like you go into, say, your venue website or your business website tomorrow, and you're using Google Analytics 4 as the base for that measurement. You can 5x what you're seeing because 80% of that, because Google is collecting personal identification information like gender, demographics, etc. If people don't opt in, they cannot track you. So what you're seeing is really 20% of your total traffic. This won't change the rates of within your analytics of conversion, for example, but it is the real number, which we are tracking in a new version of analytics, is much more than what you're seeing. And I think that's probably something that would be a real positive for a lot of marketers to know and to go and look at the data in your analytics and question it. This is more, Ollie's bringing this up because this is foundational to understanding how many visitors and what audience you're attracting, because you're only getting a representative amount of that now in your analytics.
Great addition. Thank you for that, Catherine.
Thanks, no problem, Ollie.
And so, just from a foundation perspective, we just want to lay this out to make it very clear. Like this is how we see best practice being done, and I'm suggesting a couple of tools here on the left, but there's lots of tools for this to use. So you have lots of data about before people come to your, venue, about their website traffic, their mobile traffic. You're sending them emails, SMSs. You're getting people buying tickets on your ticketing provider, and then as they get to the event, they're scanning in. You can get dates about when those things happen. There's also interactions on social or chatbot questions, responses, their ratings. And as you obviously go through to the event, it's what are people buying? Are they purchasing parking? Are they buying merchandise? Are they logging into Wi-Fi? Do you have a login process for that? Where they're spending their time, where they're moving, and sort of dwell analytics. So there's lots of solutions to do all of this. And I suppose after the event, there's a mix of, some venues that we work with have payment and wallet solutions. They've got membership and loyalty schemes, feedback and sentiment scores, as Catherine mentioned at the start, single sign-on solutions or, predictive behavior pieces. And at a very high level, what we see as best practice is using services like Databricks and Snowflake to, I suppose, standardize this information, feed it through these tools, And from there, there's two things that partners can do. The known audiences are the people that you know, you have their email addresses, and you can communicate with them directly through social, through email, through SMS. What we're seeing for the most part, if people can track SMS, it has a much higher engagement and conversion rate. And then people are using like consumer data platforms like Growth Loop, LiveRamp to build lookalike audiences. So if you have a venue in Chicago and you have, 100,000 people went to events over the last week, you can then build lookalike audiences on these consumer data platforms based on their behavior, based on their purchasing power, various different metrics. But ultimately, we're trying to take this data of the people that we know to buy more and the people that are similar that you don't know to basically get into your community and ultimately then engaging these people with content to get them to basically come and buy tickets or upsell parking or those ancillary services.
Yeah, I'm just going to add to that in the sense that I think many of you are probably in venues where what we're describing here feels impossible because, okay, food and beverage team have data on the transaction and their point of sale. The operations team is getting the information on feedback surveys and the other points of the data live in Ticketmaster, but the promoter owns that data. So it may feel impossible to bring this together. And these tools are tools to help you do it, but we know and we advise that it's really wise that you get senior management involved to do this because you need all parts of the organization to be bought into this in order to be able to track me as an individual before, at the event, after event. I might be happy to interact, I may not, but you're going to get a lot of people who are happy to interact because they're going to get the information they want. They're going to have a smooth journey. They're going to enjoy the experience there. They're going to be able to search for the services that they want. Like, so everything feels seamless to them, like people are so used to now, but it requires like a whole building buy-in to do this, to get this information all together. And it's very siloed in a lot of venues. The one place I was telling Ollie about this, we the pleasure to have a private tour around Intuit Dome in LA last April, close to the time of Polestar Live in LA, and there they've gone because they've no legacy problems of different owners and different teams and all these silos. They basically have built into a dome with a blank data canvas. So they've centered everything that's done there on their mobile app. So you can't exist or get into the venue, buy anything, or interact without using the app. So they have basically laid out their perfect data layer and then they've built everything on top of that. So they are in the perfect position to know if I would every 5 games potentially buy a jersey. I go to this type of music, all my preferences, everything, they definitely, because of the way they've set it up, have a profile of me. And I think they're like the North Star of what it could be, but they are not dealing with the legacy. So I think it needs to be, use some tech that is proven to work, like Ollie's mentioned, Snowflakes and Databrick, get management involved and figure out what that looks like for your organization. Because what we're going to talk about next, I guess, is what you do with that information. But if you don't have it and you don't get the foundations right, it's going to be very hard to be successful after that point. Would you agree
Yeah.
with me?
Yeah, look, Rome wasn't built in a day and all those cliches. It's not about having all of this information. It's bringing, what's the basics, what's the MVP, the minimum amount that you need to do, bring two, three things together, have a CRM system to basically segment these audiences. And then I think as you see return on investment from uplift, it gives more impetus to the management to invest
True, yeah.
further. So we're showing kind of the best practice, but we're not. We know there's people on this call from different parts of the world with we know some people have a team of one marketing person who's doing 500 jobs. We fully get that. So we don't expect all this to be done. And I suppose we see our role in trying to help partners incrementally grow, but it's not to do everything all in one go.
Yeah, definitely.
I'll just jump in quickly. So one of the things that we have built on top of our product is a tool to be used, I suppose, before, during, and after events called, it's a suite of products called usheru Engage. But generally, what this is contest, competition, quizzes. It can be used for kind of hosting event announcements where you can have like, how well do you know Alan Jackson or whatever the content is. And quiz features and things like this are really interesting because you can do something which is to capture a lot of email addresses, which feeds your database. But also what you can do is once the on sale data happens, or if the show's not selling particularly well, is you can retarget people to basically make a purchase a little bit later down the road. I'm not sure if I've frozen or Catherine.
Not sure which. Somebody did, yes.
Do you want
So I just, yeah, I just we've as Ollie said, I think there's these things you can do without any collaboration as a marketer is you can get out and start building that first party database. And there's an example of one of our clients that we work with who went out early for maybe we've some Alan Jackson fans on the call. They went out early with the data capture. We're always trying to encourage people to do that. Prepare your database for a show that's coming. This was like unbelievably successful. And this was for one night only. They garnered close to 350,000 email addresses and a lot more actually information for those who wanted to give it around phone number, location, their address. And this was really, really successful version of that. As it started to climb, I was thinking, okay, 50,000 looked good. But if so this is a stellar example. But I think the key crux of that is you you've announced you're not for sale, but you've got your core audience in your pocket. You're ready to go. As a marketer, there's nothing better. So it is key to just try to do these things for sports or for music, whatever you're trying to promote as early as possible. Get that data capture, um, and promote it across the period until you're ready to start selling tickets. And then go out. You've got your ready-made audience there, and they're just the buyers, and they're buying for three, four people potentially themselves. So you know that it's amplified when it comes to the reality of selling. It makes your life easier as well as a marketer to sell shows.
Yeah, and if you've 100 events a year, to do this 20 times and to capture, large cohorts of these audiences, this isn't just for this particular show, but if there's other, musical acts that are similar, you can obviously communicate with them. But it's for me, the big acts will sell themselves. It's kind of the medium and smaller acts where maybe you overestimated and you thought you'd fill this out. Having this data allows you then to sort of have a flow to basically get those people to make a purchase further down the road. Catherine.
So I'm just going to chat a little bit about this now and how data can help increase premium sales. So again, I think most of you marketers on the call, maybe some premium salespeople. In essence, your job is to promote the spaces, to encourage people to come and opt into a premium offering. And the reason premium is so important for building is obviously retention of revenue, and a lot of revenue up to 60% is made from premium sales for some of the biggest stadiums and arenas in the world. What I think is mainly the status quo is to present those spaces in a potentially beautiful way, but less focus on the benefits and more focus a lot of the time on just what the spaces look like. And I think we're trying to help some of our partners to change their thinking about that a little bit more and to present information that will give the actual person looking a lot more information what they get for their money, but also gives back to the premium sales team signals that show their intent to potentially purchase. So really, you look at all traffic that comes to these spaces. We know that your events, whether that is sports or music, is really what's the big draw for this premium purchase. So we think that we've redesigned this so this is very central to how that we understand that the decision works. And then the job on that for interest and intent signals is to just log all those interactions. Ultimately, you want a form filled in so that a salesperson, premium salesperson, can pick up the call and close a deal. But there's a large funnel, which is not that dissimilar to the funnel Ollie showed at the beginning, which is a lot of people sit in awareness, and the premium salespeople don't know how far people go beyond that. So data really helps you understand that journey. If you don't necessarily get a form filled, but you hear you know someone's come, you can retarget those people online with specific ads or messaging to get them get pique their interest to come back in, and maybe moves them along the funnel, gets them to the form fill, and maybe it will take 10 goes to get them there because it's a bit of a higher dollar value purchase, higher value dollar or euro purchase. But so it might take more to get them there, but understanding that your return on investment is going to be huge. And it gives also the premium salespeople a tool to build a pipeline for themselves and that flows more easily with the use of the data that they're getting.
Yeah.
You got
I think
anything to that, Ollie?
Yeah, I think a lot of our partners are really sort of making clear to us, especially for memberships, it's all about the acts. It's not about, yes, you've got beautiful spaces, but people come for the content. So what we're trying to do is make it clear, here's the shows that are sold out, and with memberships you can unlock this VIP experience. But like as Catherine says, each some venues will have 15 different premium spaces. The food and beverage offering, are drinks included? Is it food? Is there a buffet? They all vary from space to space. And, most people do like 80% of their shopping online before they're willing to like fill out a form. And so what we're trying to do is just to capture those pieces. But we're also seeing with partners a much higher, an increase in single suite purchase, where sometimes people don't want to speak to a salesperson and get kind of sold a full membership. All they're looking to do is get tickets for a particular show, and it's again us for us, single suite purchase is all about getting that lead in the door to qualify that this person has or this company's got enough money to make a purchase. If they make the purchase, this then allows you to sort of like put them into into a separate funnel to get them to buy, a package or a full subscription or full membership.
Cool. So, yeah, I mean, this kind of, I think it ties into to all the points we've made making. Typically,
Remember a sec,
oh yeah.
sorry, if anyone has any questions, just please put it into the chat as we go for about anything. We'll try answer them, and I will shut up again, Catherine.
Oh, not at all. Yeah, very good point. No, so I guess look, one of the most frequent things that we hear, you hear it all the time, is promoters promoting a tour or show and it's not selling well in one particular market or territory. And that's when essentially they turn to the turn back um to the team, the marketing team in venue, and ask them to help them get the show out the door. Essentially, I think the main thing that you can do if you build up your data is be able to have a lever at that point in order to be able to sell that show. Okay, this is linked into all the benefits that you can get from having the data, which is having a pool of audience nearby your venue who've been coming a lot because you have data to show that that is true, and being able to target them as in the last minute. But what you can also do is use this data to sell targeted upgrades and add-ons to any of those people that are coming to your venue. And I think treating it like a proper e-commerce journey is the way to do it. I've talked to a lot of agencies in the US who work a lot with venues. And they said, they often tell me that like radio is just kind of the go-to for the announce, but it's also the go-to for panic last minute undersold shows. I think if people really treat this as an e-commerce journey and look at how people look at who's coming in, that's how you can either have an action to take with under socials or also be able to target people who've already purchased with upgrades and add-ons, and the data just helps you to do that. Um in at the venue, obviously food and beverage discovery is so key, and that is where I think where things can be improved a lot. We've one of our great clients, maybe one of them on this call today, Climate Pledge Arena, who have an unbelievable array of concessions. And we've really worked with them to try to display that in a way that people can find the food option that they want, understanding its location, making that like discovery of food and beverage just so easy. One thing I learned actually from when the love Vanessa Cromer from SoFi Arena mentioned this once, the most searched for drink in stadiums and arenas is coffee. And every time I say that to people, they just don't realize it. So it is just one really interesting insight and probably something quite US focused perhaps, but just something good to understand about how you're getting that information out to your audiences. The discovery of the food and beverage options is just so key to how they feel at the venue, how they prepare, and the preparation for food options is just huge with younger audiences. I mean, from 35 down, very different from an older audience and how they search pre-show about how they're going to spend their time at the show. And I think it's something really important to understand how they're discovering what's going on. Otherwise, other services that you have at the venue obviously are a part of your revenue streams like ticketing, merchant, not ticketing, sorry, I was about to say parketing, any merchandising and other services at the venue. Knowing all of the data behind that audience can help you target people better that might opt in for your parking on site or anything, any other ancillary services that you have that are contributing to the growth and revenue at your venue as well. And look, ultimately, getting bums and seats is the name of the game in all the industries that we work in both in the cinema industry and in live entertainment. Sell more tickets. Understanding who your audience is, I think, is just so key to being able to fill up shows, whether that's with pure fan attendees or for people who are just looking for an entertainment option that night. You knowing who they are and what they do and able to target them online by creating lookalike audiences is just so key to success. I think having all the foundations in place to do this is what's ultimately going to get you bums and seats, and then it's really what's going to increase the spend per head at your venue. And we all know that that is really what leads to like a strong, resilient business overall at the venue, and strong bottom line. As the year goes on and you're trying to sell more tickets, you've got to give yourself the tools to do it at all phases of the cycle of an event, announcement, on sale, and pre-event.
Yeah, I think it's really important just to automate and integrate as many of these services as possible. Again, I just really think I know how busy marketeers are and they're doing so many jobs that you need to take the pain out of it. And a lot of that comes in the setup, but then it's also trying to automate some of the marketing flows where you can as well.
Yes, well, look, I think I've reversed the flow of the slides here, but yeah, I think the point I'm trying to make is, and I think that's a pain point for a lot of people working venue, is this last minute say need to sell tickets. I think having your robust data pool in your back pocket is the best way to do it. We've all made the mistake of, I guess, having a database which we blast, but consumers become increasingly blind to those types of blasts, and I think you'll find just much higher conversion rates. You're better off sending an email like blast out to, I don't know, 2,000 people, where 25% of them are fans of this genre of music, for example, than sending something out to 50,000 people. And I think every marketer in the world has realized that through trial and error that you're much better placed if you can really be more targeted with what you do and the communications that you send out to your audience.
Yeah, 100%.
And yeah, look, I think overall this kind of ties it all together. This is not a one-off. This is a data cycle, as Ollie mentioned. Getting the foundations in place, and you can either go wholeheartedly in, or you can try with one thing and start to build proof that you can bring into your organization about how much it works. But it's it's once you start, it's all about reinforcing the strength of it, analyzing what are all those data collection points in a consumer's journey when they go to your venue, and then walking through that all, but then repeating it. So it's a rinse and repeat. You're going to collect data, you're going to analyze it, you're going to have activations and campaigns that are linked to that. You've got to learn from those campaigns, and then each time you do that, your data gets stronger and stronger. This is the same in all industries, right? And some industries are just so good at doing this. And the reason it's easier for some industries, like retail, for example, particularly online retail, is that they have all those actions logged in one place. The challenge is when you have actions taking place online, on site, off site. There's so many touch points. So I think the goal can be to get the best understanding you can get your audience through first party data initiatives, and then use all that data to improve your outcomes as much as possible. You'll mitigate the risk of not having sold out shows. You'll optimize the revenue from every service and every touch point that you have at your venue.
Amazing, Catherine. Catherine, a question is coming here from Avery. What are your recommendations for using audience data to secure sponsorship and partnerships?
Very
I can
good.
give this a shot, Avery. Actually, one of the things that we're doing is like from a digital perspective at the moment, you most partners would have the logos at the bottom of a page. And what we have done is we started to track how many engagements are coming from those sponsorships. We know there's services for tracking eyeballs, on television or, different services, and how many times those logos come up. But generally, our viewpoint is to track both the digital and the eyeballs on these sponsorship locations. But what we're trying to do now is to sort of bring more activations in, if that makes sense, possible for partners. So instead of just saying our sponsor is, and I'm thinking of one of the partners here, is Alaskan Airlines, is there a way to basically unlock an activation for Alaskan Airlines, which gives more data to Alaskan Airlines, which gives value for the venue, but also allows the tracking of the engagement and really activate sponsors? So I think it's trying to track how many people or how many eyeballs are on the sponsor or partnership from a digital perspective. But I really think the next thing is to try and actually activate those sponsorships to bring more value. Anything else you'd add there, Catherine?
Yeah, I would actually, because this comes up quite a lot when we're talking to, partnership salespeople, because they're really up against it in terms of data a lot of the time, because essentially they're trying to attract brands who are making choices whether to spend their budget online, on Meta, on Google Ads, on display advertising, or go with your sponsorship package. So when they're doing a like for like comparison, you might feel like you don't have all the data points that they need to counter the argument to just put that money elsewhere. And what you're really trying to do is convince them to put it with you. I think if you're in that position of doing sponsorship sales, I think if you can create a template for yourself of what data you would like to be able to give them. Okay, so imagine you create it and you go, okay, I'm going to tell them how many eyeballs they get every Saturday night. I'm going to tell them what were the ad unit impressions on their website. I'm going to create a landing page for this sponsor. I really recommend this, by the way. Landing page for this sponsor. And then if I've got an activation to try to place QR codes as much as possible around the place to drive traffic to that web page. One of the place where you can create data points to prove to them that they're getting eyeballs, that they're getting interactions. So create a little slide template for yourself about what's your blue sky version of what that data would be that would help you either renew that sponsor or get a new sponsor, and then try to fill in the gaps with the teams across your organization to get data into that. Do a, as I say, quick and dirty version of it to begin with, see where it lands, and it's just going to get better over time. Because I think it is such a challenge, because what you're up against is where do they put the money? You've got to figure out a way to make them choose you, make it easy for them to choose you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, track it all in one place, and then in your sponsorship decks, at least you can say is other partners have had, 5,000 digital impressions, X amount in the building. If you've got like a sponsor club like American Express Lounge, how many people have visited that page? And it's trying to take all those sponsorship digital journeys and sort of bring them onto one dashboard so that your sponsorship team can feedback analytics on a monthly, quarterly, or annual basis about value generated. And I I know we're coming to an end here, but I think there's quite a few people have joined kind of as this has gone on. I might just give a quick sort of summary about what usheru do. So we work, as Catherine said at the start. Let's see if I can make it as good as you, Catherine. We work with 140, 150 partners in 6 continents, and Generally, we build digital platforms which allow people to find out where shows are on. Some of our partners like Climate Pledge Arena, UBS Arena, Park Aviva, so around the world. And ultimately, what we do is we build a beautiful digital platform with very simple flows through to buy tickets or premium. And ultimately, at the end of all this, we provide analytics on campaign by campaign what marketing is having an impact, what's working, what's not. Because we understand that you mightn't be able to get into the depths of Google Analytics. So we're trying to just give you simple dashboards to see what's working, and then the things that are not working to cut those out. And any final parting thoughts, Catherine?
No, just to say, look, really appreciate everyone coming today. Please drop us a line if you want to have a chat, if you need advice about how to get moving on the data journey, or if there's particular challenges that you're facing. We've really spent the last 4 years trying to view all of this with very fresh eyes from a digital marketing perspective. Um, and so I think we've gained a lot of insight. Now we're trying to build all the solutions to answer all those questions and really get them out to our partners and to new partners. But if you're having a challenge and you just want to talk, please just drop us a line. Love to talk to you, and we really appreciate you coming.
Thanks, guys. Have a good day.
Bye. Thank you.